Hello, everybody, and welcome to What Do You Say Anime? I am your host, Peter. On today's episode, the gang and I will be reviewing the 2010 Madhouse. Not original, even though I thought it was going into it. The Tatami Galaxy. Join me today. First, we have Johnny himself. Johnny.
Everything okay, Johnny?
How's it going, baby?
Yeah, it's going great. I'm glad that there's a character also named Johnny in this show. What his role is, we're not going to talk about that until later, but just so you know, there's a character called Johnny. So, yeah.
I love it. I love it so much. Our first moderator today, we have Miles. Miles, how's it going today?
For some reason, this intro feels like I just walked into another 4.5 Tatami room. I'm not sure exactly why, but I'm getting a serious sense of deja vu.
Yeah, me too. Hey, Miles, can you check your Venmo? Because you have a request for 2,000 yen.
I will check that.
And our other moderator of the night, we have the starting point guard from the San Antonio Spurs, Mr. Patty Mills himself. Patty, how's it going?
Great. I gotta take a break from dribbling balls, and instead now I'm here watching Tatami Galaxy and live streaming on Twitch. So let's do it. Let's kick some ass and have some fun. Oh, sorry, not supposed to swear in the first few minutes. My bad. Whatever.
We'll let that one slide.
Come on, cat. Throwback Missy Cat if you're listening. All right, but yeah, so we're doing Tatami Galaxy today. So it's Studio Madhouse production from 2010, which, yes, holy shit, we're old. We're getting old. 10 years ago, or 11 years ago now, over a decade since the show came out. So we're going back in time a little bit. It has a very art housey feel to it, I gotta say. From you can tell that just from looking at the cover art, but once you watch that first episode, you really feel that way as well. We're going to do our usual first impressions. So, what we thought about the show, what we knew about it going in, spoiler free as well. So, don't worry about getting spoiled if you haven't watched it yet. Miles, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, so the thing that I first noticed about the show was like the pace of the dialogue. I really like frantic dialogue, but it was sort of hard for me to follow in with the subtitles. There's a scene in Goodfellas where he's driving back and forth from various locations trying to transport cocaine, and the narration for the entire show is like super slow, and then all of a sudden, because of all the cocaine, it's like really like frantic and fast paced and stuff, and I just like love how that can work. So I was a little torn between my desire to be able to read all of the words, but also my love for that sort of thing. However, by the end of the first episode, with the event that happens there, and we'll get into that more when we're doing spoilers, I knew that it was like a good directional decision, and I was like really excited to see where it was going. So I would recommend this show for sure to people.
All right, perfect. I definitely agree. The first episode, you can't like be looking at your phone going down and up while you're watching it like you can with other shows, because you had to really be following along. And not that you should with the show like this though either, because like every line of dialogue, I think we'll make plenty of Bakemonogatari comparisons later on in the episode, but every line of dialogue has meaning or has purpose. There's no wasted time in this show, which is pretty damn cool, I think. But so next up is Johnny. Johnny, what do you think about this? And what would you recommend it as well?
Yeah, so I definitely get the Monogatari vibes because, like, the art style, while it is a bit different, it does certainly have some of those Monogatari vibes because, like, from the first season on, they have, like, some of those, like, real life shots with, like, actual pictures from, like, the 3D world, not the 2D anime world. And yeah, I see what Miles says about the dialogue as well. It's very fast paced. Like it's very important. It describes the plot a lot. Like I think the voice acting in this show is pretty damn good. Like the main character's voice is really funny and always makes me laugh. But yeah, in terms of if I would recommend this show, it's like it's hard to recommend something like this because most people will just think like what the hell is this like. So in terms of that, I would say like you would have to recommend this to someone who already knows anime and like enjoys this kind of thing, not to someone who just like hasn't watched anime.
Yeah, you definitely can't recommend this to someone who's never seen anime before. I don't think that would be smart. And even then, though, I think that this is has a very niche interest pool, I guess. I don't know. We talked about it before in a previous instance of this very same podcast that it's a very like similar to Perfect Blue, right? Where it's like it's got that Satoshi Kon feel, which maybe that's just because it's done by Madhouse, which I'm 90% sure did all the Satoshi Kon movies. Correct me if I'm wrong now.
You are
But
correct.
thank you. I thought I knew I was correct, but I didn't. You know that feeling sometimes where you're just like, God. but like, yeah, you can't. You really have to be ready to focus and examine this show rather than just sitting back and watching it like you're just eating popcorn, watching it to watch it. I feel like that's a very good point as well, Johnny. So good on bringing that up. And you said you did recommend it in general, but not specifically to
Yeah, it's like you have to find the right people to recommend this to. You
that.
wouldn't
I
just
think that makes
recommend this to
sense.
all your friends.
Correct. All right, Pete. What about you? What have you got?
So I've known about the show for a while. I was actually watching this show a few months back, and then Miles, I believe, nominated it like 4 months ago. And I was like, oh, there's
Yep.
a good chance that we're going to like have this for Watch Club. So I actually stopped watching it back then. Um Going into it, I knew that Yuasa, the director, who now does like all of Science Saru's stuff, I knew that he was the director. He's top two, maybe, directors in anime for me. I absolutely love him. I knew going into it that I was going to be blown away by like the animation, the direction, how they're going to handle certain things. I was really impressed by their adaptation of incorporating like real life shots into it. And I think that's another like Monogatari reference we're going to be talking about. Just if you're like a fan of like I'll just say like the non-shonen stuff, like if you care about plot and like characters and direction and animation and everything, I absolutely recommend the show. This was a fantastic watch and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Fair enough. Yeah. So I'm gonna echo a lot of the same points that have been made so far. Like I already kind of gave my opinion on the show, mixed with everyone else as well. But I really liked the dialogue in the show. I think every line is important, and I really like that about it. The art, while it is stylistic, is not my favorite part of the show, and we can get into that later a little bit more. It's not your usual anime look, which isn't necessarily why I didn't like it, but it definitely wasn't. I don't know. It distracted me while I was watching it. Maybe I'm just too used to the norm. I don't know. Um, and it's not just like, oh, because it's older, it looks different. It's because it was
Oh, yeah,
specifically
it's
stylized to be different. Just like a previous Watch Club show, Ping Pong the Animation, show done by the same director as well.
yeah, similar to Devilman Crybaby as well.
That
Just
as well.
anything this Science Saru does, really, it just
hmm
ends up sort of looking like this.
Yep. And Japan Sinks. I didn't even realize he did Japan Sinks. I
He
wonder.
did.
That's not a good thing though, from what I've heard. So,
Can't
but
can't win them all.
can't.
I
No,
mean,
you
like they
can't.
all have similar art style, so yeah, it makes sense.
That does make sense. But yeah, so I would recommend this show to people who uh like art house shows like this. I would recommend it to Miles if he hadn't already watched it and recommended it to us as well for this episode. But I would not recommend it to Johnny, if that makes sense. If you guys have been following this our watch club for long enough, I hope you can understand that analogy. But yeah, and honestly, I wouldn't recommend it to myself either. I don't know.
Does he
Well,
have shit taste?
no, no, it means that you're not into stuff that's necessarily incredibly provocative and very like reflective of like your own life's experiences. You're also not as old as some of us, where we can reflect on stuff that's shown in the show and then be like, oh, that happened in my life, or that's similar to a situation or emotions that I felt in this situation. That was my personal opinion. Again, if you disagree, we can talk about that
Well,
later. But
just in
yes,
college in general, which the whole show
like
like is wrapped around. Like
right,
three of the four of us have gone to college. The
right,
one who hasn't maybe won't like resonate with some of the things that happen. So
right,
I
right.
think
Yeah,
that's
so I
kind
guess
of
that's a
what Pat
better.
is saying.
Yeah, that's a better way to phrase it than I did. But yeah, again,
Fair enough.
I think it's a good show, but it wasn't my favorite. I enjoyed watching it though overall, so I would recommend watching it if you have any interest in this specific director, if you like Madhouse works, um, and yeah, I don't know, and if you trust our opinions on it as well, as we're gonna get into. But yeah, so Miles, do you have any specific talking points that you'd like to get into now that we are going into the spoiler section as well of the podcast? So please be warned. Pause this if you have to. We are going into spoilers for the Tatami Galaxy.
Yeah, it's only 11 episodes, so you can save yourself 20 minutes and just finish it. Um,
Yeah.
as far as like, I think that we should do like a quick plot overview. Um, so before we, really get into talking about like what happened and how it was portrayed and like all of that. So, our main character's name is, I guess, Watashi or protagonist. It just sort of depends. He's sort of unnamed, but he refers to himself as Watashi. So which is like me in Japanese.
Correct.
So he goes to college and he's trying to have like I think he says like his rose-colored college life or something like that is the phrase used. Rosy campus life is what it is. And so he you know, you see him like go through some stuff in the first episode, and he's sort of bitter about like other couples and stuff. And you see he has this friend he doesn't really like named Ozu, and they work on like sort of ruining like other couples' fun and stuff, and they get into a bunch of trouble together. And at the end, as he's being thrown off of a bridge, he thinks to himself, like, I would love to be able to like go back 2 years ago, because if I had like chosen X or Y differently, like surely I would like achieve my, rosy campus life. We get a cool clock spinning backwards animation. We go into the ED, which spoils the entire show if you know what you're looking at.
Yeah.
And,
Yes, it does. It absolutely does.
Very
Yeah.
much so.
And then at the start of the next episode, it's back at the beginning of his freshman year, and he picks a different like club to be in. And then we go into the OP, which spoils the entire show if you know what it's doing. So the subsequent episodes are pretty much all iterations on that, where he'll do part of his life, something will happen, he won't be satisfied with it, he'll go back in time in order to like do some things differently, and there's like some awareness of it, but for the most part he isn't aware of these lives he's living. So that's like, I guess, the general plot. Like, how do we want to break this down? It's sort of weird because it's like not particularly linear. Like, do we want?
I think we should maybe talk about like why he's going back in time specifically, because
Yeah.
of like it's of the whole like god of like matchmaking and all that stuff.
Well, yeah. So I mean, that's what he views him as. So he has a senpai. It's like an 8th year super senior.
Eighth year, which
Yeah.
is
So he's been in school for 4 extra years.
8
There's a
years in
part-
college sounds like
Yeah.
hell. I'm gonna be honest.
he talks about meeting someone up. He's like, oh, I met someone from my class. They're like, well, surely they're a doctoral student by now. And I thought that was super funny. But so that guy's name is Citaro. And so he is like portrayed as a god, but he's not actually a god. He is just someone that our main character admires and like looks up to. And so a neat thing about the show, and I guess this is a time to get into it when we're talking about this, is that the characters' appearances are very much colored by how Watashi views them. So, Citaro kind of looks like, one of those like gods or noblemen or something from those old time like Japanese artworks. He has like this big chin. He's always doing all of this like wise stuff and everything. And it's just because he's like an upperclassman that he like seeks wisdom from, and like a couple of the students seek wisdom from. And you see like a similar effect with like Ozu, who is his like, I guess, nemesis sort of person, where he looks super gremlin-y, and at the end you figure out like that's not at all what he looks like. That's just how we were viewing him, because we were seeing the world through our protagonist's lens. So because he is unsatisfied with his decisions, and he is looking to improve his campus life, he wants to find like the perfect 3-year span for his college. He gets sent back in time in order to make other decisions. There are lots of moments where he sort of blames other people that aren't him, or decisions that were made for his unhappiness. And I think that one of the messages of the show is that like you are very responsible for your own happiness. And like a thing we see is that while some things change as we go forward and he goes through these different scenarios, he generally ends up at the same spot and is generally unhappy with where he is, because he isn't, I guess, grasping the message that's in front of him, as the fortune teller says. So yeah, I guess like that's like the like why he's going back in time. It's due to his own dissatisfaction and his desire to find like a perfect scenario to be in, like a perfect life sort of thing. He wants to find, he wants to have a great 3 years. He wants to find a hot raven-haired maiden to date. There's sort of all of that. So I think that, do we just like explain the ending and then tackle parts of it, or do we just like go with the episodes with how we saw them? What do you guys think? Because that's sort of
That's a
it's
great
sort of,
question.
it's hard
This
because
is a
literally
hard show to talk about.
they all happen at the same. Okay, I'm gonna just make an executive decision here. We're gonna spoil the ending here, so get ready for that, and then we're gonna talk about, I think, how the different episodes maybe represent that or add into what the reveal would be like later as you're watching it.
Sounds good.
So in episode 10 and 11, it sort of comes together what's happening, I guess like in his mind or in reality or however. So episode 10, he wakes up in his room, which is a 4.5 tatami room. If you don't know what that means, that means that the room is essentially big enough for 4.5 tatamis, which are like sleeping bags or something. They're like roll-out beds that they use in Japan. So it's a relatively small room. And when he tries to leave his room, there's another room, another 4.5 tatami room, and no matter where he goes, if he breaks down the walls, if he jumps through the windows, there's just more of these rooms. It's like a Tatami Galaxy. They're
Wait,
just sort of
what?
whoa.
Oh,
my
you're blowing my
God.
mind right now, bro.
Yeah, so they're just
Where's
sort of
your
like,
wow sound effect, Pete?
Oh,
yeah,
hold
we
on.
got one.
Yeah,
Johnny's
there it
better
is.
at this than you are. Johnny's got
Yeah.
this
Sorry.
all
Yeah,
locked,
give
yeah.
Johnny the soundboard.
My
Yeah,
bad.
exactly.
So what happens then is that like he goes through like sort of like, I don't know, different phases of like acceptance and denial and all these things about the situation he's in. At first he's very happy to be secluded in this room. Like he feels safe and secure there. He doesn't have to deal with any of these issues that he has. But as the months go on, he feels a desire to get out of this, and he's just unable to. And he's stuck in there so long, you see that he has like a beard and stuff now. He starts doing things that are nonsensical for the situation he's in, like collecting money, because he can't use it. He is stuck in this room. Eventually, he comes to realize that each of these rooms are, I guess, like lives he could have lived. If he
I
had
thought
made,
they were the lives that he did live, like in the previous episodes.
No, they're like alternate timelines.
Yeah, so they are that, but what it is it's like, I don't know how to say. I
So,
guess
like,
I
it was
can't
like-
tell if he did live them or if he could have lived them,
I
and
thought
he
there
was
was, like,
filling in the gaps.
I thought there was like a reference to like a previous episode and one.
There's
of them.
tons
there
though.
is,
That's what they are, right? So, like,
Yeah.
for example, he sees one of the rooms has the sex doll in it, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and one of the rooms he has the.
Oh, and by the
the
way,
secret-
she has
the-
a name. It's Kaori.
My apologies. And what a quiet raven-haired maiden she is.
She really is.
And so one of the rooms he has like the secret society. Dude, you're gonna best girl a fucking inanimate doll. And
You're damn right. I'm going to.
okay, well we'll get
It's
to that
called
later.
Dutch woman,
Because
it has
I think
class.
that she's like actually a very interesting character as far as what she like symbolizes and stuff.
It's like she's the best character.
So oh my god.
Oh
So
my god, really?
they're representative of like these lives he could have lived, at least in his consciousness. Like he
Yep.
might have actually lived those. I am not 100% sure. But he's now aware of the circumstances that these lives could have lived. And what he realizes is that like while there was like trouble in these lives, that ultimately they were good, and that, the guy who was living in that room, in that 4.5 tatami room, had a lot to be happy about and thankful for. And, it wasn't the perfect rosy college life, but it was great, So he's able to use that. He goes back to like his primary timeline, I guess, the first one from episode 1, which is a little bit why I think that like a lot of that was just him putting it together in his head, like what these lives would have been like. But anyway, he goes, he saves Ozu. He realizes this entire time that like Ozu was actually his really good friend, and that he wasn't this creepy yokai like he was saying he was, and that was just his own bitterness and I guess like sort of selfishness or whatever that was like making him view him that way, and that Ozu had been there for him. And that'll be an interesting thing to talk about because Ozu is betrayed in quite a few different ways. But like when you actually pay attention to the interactions, they're always generally very positive with our narrator. He also then gets the ability to ask out Akashi to the ramen place he loves. That was sort of like a goal he had been trying to do since literally the beginning of the show. And they end up happily ever after because, as the show says, there's nothing more boring than a love story where everything goes right. So that's what happens. Now, how did we get there?
Let's Quentin Tarantino this.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, this is
Yeah.
a hard show to talk about. So we see him go through these different scenarios, and in the scenarios, there's actually like a lot of foreshadowing and hints and things about what's actually happening. In fact, it literally tells us what's happening at multiple points. Not just the OP and the ED, which show someone going through endless tatami rooms, but like in episode 2, there's movies that he was making. So he was in the movie club. He liked making these like art, sort of like avant-garde films and stuff, but the movie club didn't like that. They had this other 8th year senior that they liked to like, sort of like Hollywood action film, sort of superhero type of things.
He also owned a sex doll.
And he also owned a sex doll.
Kaori.
And he owned
Use her
Kaori.
name.
She does have a name. Let's
I
Use
am
her
like
name.
also 8% sure that he never
She
did
worked-
anything sexual with Kaori.
She works very hard.
He didn't own her. He didn't own her. He was in a relationship with her. That's the real way to put it.
So the 3 movies that there's 4 movies that our narrator pitches, and the first one is a series of old men who are in a feud with each other for a lost reason, and they then pass the feud down to the next generation, which is what happens in episode 3. And then the second movie is about a man who has to decide between 3 women, but he's unable to in the hijinks that ensue. That is episodes, 7...
6, 7, and 8?
6, 7, and 8.
Yeah, 6, 7, and 8.
And the third movie is about a man who is stuck in an infinite amount of 4.5 tatami rooms and has to travel through them in order to discover the meaning of his life. So that was a little on the nose, but we didn't know it at the time.
Yeah.
The movie that he's currently trying to make is a movie about true love, but he is unable to end it because he can't think of a satisfying ending. But as we know, there is nothing more boring than the end of a love story that ends happily. So perhaps that's why he couldn't think of a satisfying ending that wasn't boring, because his love story ends up happily. So I want to talk about, like, I think that episode 2 does a very good job of showing us the perspective that we see the narrator, like, through his eyes. And what's the guy, like, Josaki? Josuke? Is that how you pronounce it? Okay.
No, it's not
No,
Don't
it's
actually
Joe. He's making a JoJo joke. It's
okay, yeah, I don't know what
Joe
JoJo's is.
Joe Goski. Yeah.
Yeah.
Joe Goski.
So, anyways, Mr. McChad. So our narrator does not like him in this particular timeline because he's like sort of jealous of his success in the movie club, and he thinks his ideas are better. And he's also kind of a dick to him. Like the guy is sort of a dick to our MC. But I think the perspective that we can see, and I only saw this upon like rewatching, was like there is a scene where he is really drunk. Joe Gasaki or whatever.
Just call him Chad. It'll be way
Chad,
easier.
yeah,
Just call him Josuke.
so Chad is really drunk, and but the way that our MC views it is like him being carried on. What are those things called? Like,
like the Roman, like
yeah,
they carry
where
out,
they
like
carry
on.
you.
Yeah, what's that called?
Ask the history major. I don't know.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's not a rickshaw. It's a rickshaw without wheels.
We're
On a rickshaw without wheels, and Xerxes is on one in 300. And so like that's how he's viewing him, is like this king who's being propped up by all these little people. And then when you zoom out of his perspective, it's his two friends helping him like stumble around because he's so fucking drunk. So it's literally just his friends being good friends, but our narrator is like so bitter about his own life that he views someone else having good friends as like being this pompous tyrant sort of deal.
Yeah.
You know,
Sorry, I didn't know what the name was.
That's okay.
As
it's
a
not
history
important.
major,
It's
I'm
called
I'm
very,
sure your teacher
litter.
doesn't care.
I'm very-
Litter. A litter.
those are so common in American history, as you know. So I definitely should have had that one down. That's my fault. But that is a very good point. That it's weird because like in
A
most anime
palanquin.
you see it. Oh, so we have two different names now. We
Hey,
have two
I looked up litter and it popped up. So
It's a palanquin.
all right,
Anyways,
let's go. Whatever.
Anyways, the three it's cool because I think with this so like you talked about how from his perspective he's so bitter that he sees it as one way when in reality it's a different way. Or
Mhm.
this anime is pretty much mostly done from first person, right? So
Yes.
it's I think that's a very different thing than from most other anime where you know if you have one scene shown in like a first person, like a person looking around, it's very very out of place or it's not normal. So I think that's what this anime does extremely well for me. For me is that it does this first person it feels so unique and so different from other anime because of it. And that's what I really liked about it. That's the part of the uniqueness of the show that I really liked, is that it gave a whole different perspective to scenes because yeah, the way you feel about something is going to influence how you perceive it. It always will. And that's how life is. And obviously in this show it's a little exaggerated by a lot. You know, like with a one guy literally looking like a yokai, or the like you said, the wise man having the gigantic chin and looking wise to the um to Watashi. But they, I think that's part of the storytelling, and that's part of what makes this show really really cool.
You know, it reminds me of like, you know, you have that one person that you like hate, and even if, no matter what they say, they just say hi, and you hate them for saying hi. That's like kind of like the perspective of like how he views Chad in like the earlier episodes. It's like, oh, this dude's getting helped by his friends because he's drunk. What a douchebag! And just like, I love that because like, there's definitely that one person in your life where you just like cannot stand no matter what they do. They could be helping an old lady cross the street, and you'd be like, that dude's just doing it for clout. You know he's doing it for clout.
He wants us to see it.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
just what it
and
reminded me of.
I don't trust
breaking the
anyone with
worst.
that face. Let's be honest. Like,
Yeah.
but you like see that and how tilted the perspective is, because all that guy does in reality is not accept his like pitches, and is like kind of mean about it, but not even that mean. He was basically just like, in order to get things accepted, you need to like sell out a little bit. Like, you know, like your ideas are kind of like watching yourself masturbate. Is I believe what he says.
yeah, that is what he
And-
said. To be fair,
and-
he makes a good point.
Yeah, and like, you know, they kind of are.
And if you haven't done it yet, you should try it.
Yeah.
Film
and
yourself masturbating.
what he does is sneak
Yes.
into his house and like reveal all this shit about it. It has completely ruined the guy's movie, and he didn't even do anything. But like when you're watching it from our protagonist's perspective, it seems like a justifiable thing. You know, and so like I don't know. I thought that was really neat. Does anyone have any examples from that arc? Any other arcs that they thought like added to, I guess, like the story at the end, or the message that is like trying to tell, or anything like that?
From a specific arc, I don't know if I have one that like adds to. There's like multiple scenes where like I love them individually. I don't know if they like portray to like the entire like whole of a story. I guess it makes sense because like I guess one of my favorite scenes is episode 7, where it's the beginning and he's stuck in the bathroom, and he has this choice of going to see the girl he's been writing letters with, the girls who he's currently at apartment and like essentially sleeping with her, or going to see Kaori the sex doll. And his option was, I need to go see Kaori right now. And I just like that little scene. I paused because I was gut laughing so hard.
I mean, can you blame the man? Like, Kaori is a wonderful woman.
And then also it has my like second favorite scene of the entire show. At the end of it, Chad gets Kaori back. And he's like, what is wrong with you? Like, what are you doing to Kaori? Like, as he's like embracing this sex doll, looking down on this other guy who kidnapped a sex doll, and like that's the plot for episode 7 is falling in love with a sex doll and kidnapping her because you love her, and then having that love taken back.
He literally also just has a wall of boobs in his apartment, like.
Yeah, he's a Chad. He's the Chad of Chads.
So like what I think is really interesting about that entire arc, like I love 6, 7, and 8, but it's just like what each of the women represent from like a life path decision, right? Like you have, you know, the version that is not taking a risk at all, and that is Kaori, right?
Yep.
Like
he did take a risk, so he got fucking punched by
romantically
Chad.
Though, right?
Romantically, she's like passive, and
she's not gonna turn him down.
She can't. She won't turn him down. She is whatever. Like he is her voice, right? Like she is, like she literally speaks, like I think with his voice.
Correct. And like the high pitched voice like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm gonna just see if they have the same voice actor real quick.
No. Yeah, the voice actor for Kaori is literally the main character's voice actor.
Yeah, it's Hitachi. Yeah.
So like that is like really like, you know, what would his life be like if he like ran away from taking a risk and stuff, and then, you know, the other one is like, is he willing to like pursue this like romantic interest he has, even if it means like admitting to himself that he's not as good as he wants to be, you know? So like having to like overcome, you know, your own expectations and the things you've done wrong or whatever is there. And then there's you know, like the dentist girl, which I thought was like really interesting because I think his interaction with Ozu at the end of episode 6 is like a super big tell that Ozu is like a good guy, because he's there, and he talks, you know, about his interactions with what's her name, Hanuki, or I'm just gonna call her Ryoko.
Ryoko, the dental hygienist.
Yeah, because he's like, you know, oh, she like gets like that, like, you know, you didn't do anything, did you? Like he was worried about her because he knew her and he was like friends with her and stuff. And that to me like sort of shows that like he's probably not this guy that he's being portrayed as. And so I thought that was neat. I also really liked the whole dynamic between Watashi's libido and like his actions and his like the fighting for sanity, because like he knew it was absolutely not right to sleep with her, from like a, you know, I don't know, like I guess like moral perspective.
Yeah,
because,
moral's a really good word to use for that situation.
And you know, but he was still bummed because he'd been like, you know, he likes her a lot and he was like, you know, trying to get with her. And so that whole like conflict or whatever, but like the sad resignation from Johnny, where he's like, I understand.
Hello.
I'm gonna go back to my pen. Like like this isn't my time. I get that.
Yeah.
You know, I thought that was like really interesting. I also thought the obsession with Kaori's like purity was interesting, and I don't know if that like why exactly that was there. Like if that was some sort of commentary on like not stooping so low as to fuck this sex doll and just like not do that to yourself. Like not be the type of person who does that. But I don't know. I mean, I really liked it from like that sort of a perspective, though I did think the whole situation was hilarious in episode 7, Pete. Like just like he's pedaling in the rain, like he's like trying to like escape with her from like Nazi Germany or something.
Yeah, it's like
And-
Did you guys catch why he had to bring him over to the main character's house?
well, it's because I thought it was because like he was gonna. Why was it, Johnny?
It was because of the proxy war that was going on. Because like
Yes.
it wasn't mentioned in this particular timeline, but it's implied that every single timeline this is also like all happening. So like basically like Chad and like the master, what was his name again?
Yosuke, right? Oh no, that's Chad.
That's the Chad. You can just say
Seitaro.
Just say
Seitaro.
Master.
Yeah.
They Seitaro. Yeah, like they have like this war. I forgot the reason why they started the war, but like they basically like have war of like doing small pranks to each other. So basically, Chad had brought Kaori over so that she couldn't like they couldn't do shit to her.
The implication is that it's a war over Ryoko. The reason I think that is, one, we know that they're both in some prospects interested in her. One, because she ends up traveling the world with Seichiro at the end. But then we see that Chad is like on the date with her, kinda. At one point.
Yeah, with
Like,
Tashi cock blocks him.
Yeah, with Tashi cockblocks him. But
well, she said they were just friends.
Well,
but,
yeah,
know.
but,
yeah, a lot of girls start out that way.
You're just friends until you're not just friends.
Exactly. There you go.
And you gotta hang out with them in order to get there. So, but the way that it starts, according to the movie that it references it in episode 2, is that they partake in a drinking contest to prove their worth to a girl, and that is how Watashi and Joasuke like fight each other in order to hang out with Ryoko. So, like, I think that it was probably something like that. We know she likes to drink. We know that she was like impressed generally by like it's like a very college thing, right? Like, wow, like you can drink a bunch. That's like really cool and not a sign that your life has probably gone downhill yet because you're like
Wait,
22.
that's a sign that my life's going downhill?
Yeah,
whoa.
I have no limit.
Yo,
yeah,
I'm having an existential crisis right now, my man.
Yeah, well, Pat just graduated, so he has an excuse. But Pete, what's yours?
Yeah. There you go.
I'm
Thank you.
30 and I'm doing an anime podcast.
That's
Fair
enough.
I guess I should start drinking more.
Cheers. Cheers. Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool. There's also like in that proxy war, like he finds the bag of cash that he left himself. From traveling the tatami rooms,
Yep.
which is interesting in like episode like 4, I think, which is the proxy war episode.
He used it to buy like a toilet brush or something.
He used it to buy like a cleaning brush for the proxy war. Sorry. So yeah, I don't know. I thought that was neat. I think that there's like just sort of a lot of things that sort of hint towards the message. You know, other than like the fortune teller just being like, if you keep doing this, your life will never change. You have to like do the thing in order to figure it out. But like she's the one who's sending him back in time. You can tell because she remembers and she charges him more money each time he gets advice from her. In the last episode, you see her turning back the clock, like in the clock tower, her like silhouette or whatever. So I don't know. Did anyone else have like what was like everyone's like favorite arc? What do they like about it? Like,
my favorite arc was definitely the God, what were the numbers? I
6, 7, and 8.
6, 7, 8.
Thank you. 6, 7,
Yeah,
8.
6, 7, and 8.
That was my favorite arc, partly because my favorite girl Ryuku was in there. I can just spoil it now because we're gonna talk about it in like 10-15 minutes anyways. I found her dynamic with Watashi most interesting, and of course that's kind of like the point is I feel like is that again it's how he perceives her, which is as this this woman who drinks a lot but is also very flirty, and maybe that's just how he perceives it versus what's reality. There's a little bit of a blurred blurred lines. Maybe that's not the best way to phrase it, but maybe it is. Who knows?
Well, he learns like more about like who she is, right? Like when he sees her at the bridge, and he's like, he can't like quite process the fact that she's sad at first, because that's just not how he sees her.
Yeah, he sees her as like this always happy-go-lucky person who likes to drink or whatever, and is always just happy, resonating a good mood. And yeah, no, that's different. It's not how she is. She's a human that has emotional issues and frustrations or things in her life that make her upset, and that gets explored a lot, I think, which I liked her, which is why I liked her the most, or that specific arc I thought was the most interesting because it did it showed the three, like we talked about earlier, the three choices he could have made, and the reflections he has to make with each of those choices. So that's what I liked about it the most.
For me, I loved episode 5, which was the softball team disguised as a multi-level marketing like firm. I thought it was like genius that this company is preying on these broke college students to sell whatever, like some form of honey to people
Yeah, like
had
health food or
yeah,
whatever.
this health food to these broke college students because like it has all these like fantastic nutritional benefits, and you would anything like I don't know, you eat this, you're like amazing, and then he's like, okay, well if I sell 1,000 of them, I'll be like the top seller. I'll get to go to this camp. I'll get to see the girl again and all this stuff, and then he just realizes like, no, this whole thing is a scam. Like it's just like, yeah, that's what multi-level marketing is. It was
Yeah,
really
he
fun.
basically just joined a cult. That's not a scam.
Yeah, oh no, it wasn't a cult. It was definitely more multi-level marketing than a cult, but like
They're very similar.
very, very similar.
I mean, fair enough. Yeah.
You could definitely say, I would say multi-level marketing firms are cults, but well, actually, now that I think about it, that would be a whole other discussion for another time. But I thought that episode was super funny. I'm always super fascinated by like cults and stuff like that, the psychology behind it. And I just loved how they pried on these broke college students and everything. And just the whole episode was just an absolute blast because it was pretty unique compared to the rest of the story. I felt like that like was its own thing compared to like, I don't know how to describe it unless you've seen it, but like how the other episodes like intertwined with the main story. That one seemed like it did it the least to me. And it was just like a really fun episode that I just thoroughly enjoyed.
So I think it like very much ties in to the main story because like one, he's doing all of that stuff in order to get a girl. Two, he isn't tuned enough into his own life to realize that girl that he's after is his best friend's girlfriend. Um, and then three, we get like perspective of like why you like learn because like all of the crazy stuff Ozu does in all of it sort of starts to make sense once you learn more about what's happening because like the outside world that happens around our main character stays relatively static in every iteration, right? Like all of these things are happening and we're only seeing from his perspective, but like as Johnny pointed out with like the proxy war, we see that happening and like Ozu like steals that blimp like every time or whatever, like that's just what happens. um and I thought that was interesting because it showed him like putting in effort in order to get something, but it was like he was like kind of like trying to cheat. It wasn't like the actual effort he needed to do.
Yeah,
So
it
I
was
thought
like
it was like
polar opposite to like episode 4 because like you see him like work. He like busts his ass at part-time jobs for 2.5 years to buy a bike. And then the next episode, he's just like, fuck it, I'm gonna scam people for money now. So it's like the opposite of like doing the
yeah,
right thing for like maybe the wrong reason, and then doing the wrong thing for the right reason,
yes.
depending on how you look at it. But like, I love the dynamic.
Well, I thought the bike thing was a great version of him missing the point because instead of just practicing bike riding and like spending his time trying to get better and more in shape and stuff at like riding a bike, which he ends up doing after he quits that club anyway.
Yep.
He spends all of his time doing these super hard jobs to like buy a bike, like a really advanced bike, which is like so missing the point in my opinion.
Yeah, for
Like
sure.
that, like and then when he wasn't supposed to train because he needed his like flimsy Miles like body with no muscle to fly
Yeah,
the
not
bird
like a
plane.
Pete body, a Miles
Yeah,
body.
not like a Pete body. He then like trains super hard and stuff. And he ends up like I liked at the end of that episode because like I think he was super close in that, and then he ended up just sort of like cashing it in at the end out of frustration, because his hard work wasn't like immediately rewarded. I don't know. Pat, you were going to say something?
No, I wasn't. I was
Okay.
stretching. I'm sorry. I thought that was that. I thought you summed it up pretty well. Uh, but yeah. So I don't know. I think has everyone said their best arc? Johnny, did you get to speak yet on that?
Yeah, I was just gonna say my favorite arcs also 6, 7, and 8 because it's just like it's fucking like the fucking Kaori scene is just fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
Just like thinking about the implication of that happening in real life. Like, can you imagine just on your way to college, you see someone running with a sex doll in their arms?
I went to
away
school
from
in
another guy who's
Spokane, so
chasing after?
I for sure can imagine that.
I saw some weird things in college. Yeah.
like you would never forget that in your life. Like
I
that
haven't.
is gonna be burned in your memory.
That's pretty great. That is a good point, though. That's a great way to bring some perspective into it. Because wow, that throws me back to some college memories of things I've seen on the streets of Boston and Cambridge. And good lord, how did I survive?
Good
You've
time.
seen sex dolls in
Great
sex dolls in
times.
public.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
Worse. I've seen in public, a lot worse. But
Nice.
yeah, that's besides the point. But yeah, is there anything else that we wanted to specifically talk about before we get into like best girl or best boy, and then our closing thoughts?
A thing that I wanted to point out about episode 8, and I know I've been talking a lot, so if you guys out there listening normally don't like my opinions, I'm sorry for this episode, because I have lots.
Well, this is a Miles show for sure.
Yeah,
so that's why.
it's true. So Akashi is I guess his pen pal. It was like originally a prank that they were pulling on their friend, but she just like sort of keeps it up. One, because she like has a crush on him, and I think she enjoyed talking to him, but she wanted to come clean. So a thing that happens is like she's very aware that he's been embellishing himself, and she says that she's also been embellishing herself, but I don't think we have literally any indication that that's true. So, like, for example, they talk about the book that she talked about liking, that was what connected them, was a young adult book, which in like reality is the successor,
Dude, that scene was so great.
Yeah.
Is the sequel to Tatami Galaxy, but we know that she like likes childish things like that, and all of the things that we learn about like this mystery girl we know fit Akashi, like in her personality. And I just thought that was like a super interesting conversation they had, because I think that was like even her kind of like running from it a bit, because we know that she likes him. There's like hints of that like throughout like most of the arcs. You see that she's like the only person who laughs at his movies. Like she sort of like gets him. They're good for each other. And so I just like thought that was like a very interesting thing, like because we know she likes childish things because she likes that like superhero show or whatever. And I also like really I loved that too, like where he's doing the costumed heroes in episode 7, and that's the one where he picks Kaori. But he like saves her, Akashi, from like these guys that were like trying to like hit on her or whatever. He like comes down in his like little bear costume, and he's getting like pushed around, but like a mob of children like scream swiper no swiping at them basically.
Yep.
And it's like like they tell them to change their ways, and like that gets like fixed and stuff. And so like I thought that was super cool.
Can I say something about that?
Yeah.
Like the foreshadowing is because like she has 4 of them on her keyring and she's missing the 5th. The 5th one is he's the 5th, because she's missing
one.
The white one, and he
Yes.
plays the white one in the stage show. So like he is the missing 5th thing for her. Yeah, it's wonderful.
There's just so many things like that, where it just like really like things make sense in retrospect. They come together. You realize that it's just been like screaming at you what was going to happen the entire time. Perspective switches or whatnot, and you like learn about what's happening. I just think it's absolutely fantastic. I'm surprised no one liked episode 9. I really liked episode 9, which is the one where he becomes like the mob boss kind of guy.
Mhm.
Which is like him, like just like I guess like what happens if I just delve into materialism sort of thing, and like that's the one that sort of like ends, I guess, negatively, like in reality,
Oh
where
yeah, he loses.
yeah,
straight up.
exactly. And that's sort of what then sends him spiraling to like review everything in the way he does. How everything gets tied together in 10, like when you see him coming through the room and seeing himself, and that was something you saw earlier, or because in one of the episodes he like has like a dream or a nightmare or something where he like sees himself like coming through a wall, but that actually happens, like that's him doing that. Like when the bag of money gets dropped off, just like how all of that gets connected, his realization of like why Ozu's been doing what he's been doing, and like how he's actually like good friends with him, and maybe he shouldn't be such a douchebag to his friend who's like generally looking out for him. And he like figures out what he needs to do, and then helps his friends figure out what they need to do, and like sends them on the right path and helps them like make the connections and stuff. I just thought it was like a really satisfying ending. And I very much agree with the like there's nothing more boring than like a happy love story thing at the end. Like I always thought that's something I wanted, but then I watched Wodokoi and I was like, oh, I actually don't want this at all.
You
so
want
I'm
the
glad.
chase.
Yeah,
You want the process, not the
Yeah.
end.
And so I was really glad that that could be summed up for me so succinctly, so shortly after we watched Wodokoi.
Yeah, clearly.
I mean, that was the last actual anime we watched, right? So,
Yeah, fair
Yeah,
enough.
yeah. You're right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
2 weeks ago was a fever dream. Holy shit!
Yeah.
Do you remember?
We were all stuck in a 4.5 Tatami fucking room.
It was bad. Oh man. Oh, sorry for any fans of that show. Didn't we get a lot of listeners on that episode?
No, we did not.
Oh, we didn't. All right, that makes me feel better then. And there we go. Fuck that show.
Yeah,
We
that's
did
the
get someone who listened to like 20 seconds of it and was talking about how excited they were that we did it, though. And honestly, I very much apologize to you because
sorry,
it is
Daisuke.
absolutely fine to like that show, but I don't. I hate it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if we want to like
Not
wrap
fun.
it up and do all that, we can now. I can't think of anything else that I want to talk about. If no one else has anything they want to talk about,
I guess well, like the art is what I was going to talk about, and then but again, we kind of mentioned it already, I think, in our intros, and I'm sure we'll talk about it ourselves too in our little like end sequence as well, or whatever you want to call it, like our final thoughts. So I guess we can just get on to best girl and best boy, well,
Yes.
best boy as well. So this could be some contested choices, maybe it sounds like Pete thinks it is at least. So Pete, why don't you start us off then? What's your
Whew.
we already know who your best girl is. Let's hear it.
Best girl. Obviously, the MVP of the show. She stole every scene that she was in. Actions speak louder than words. Kaori is best girl.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Incredible performance by her.
name one action Kaori did.
She sat.
Sat there.
She didn't sit. Chad sat her down.
Yeah, she got
Okay,
carried.
what is the process of sitting down then? I guess she's
Satting.
she's satting. Yeah,
Having intent and doing it yourself under your own volition, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You know what? You know what's really underrated these days with all the social media, all the clout chasing, the text without the phone calls type of thing. She is a great listener. She was there for Watashi. She was there for Chad. She listened to every word they said. She, even when there was a lover's quarrel, she respected both men. And you know what? She picked the right one. She definitely belongs with Chad. So Kaori is absolutely my best girl. Best boy is Ozu. I loved him every scene that he was in for like the exact opposite reasons of Kaori. I love that. I don't know. He was just so much fun. He was just a bundle of joy from like his actions to like his voice acting was incredible too. I love that he looks like a turnip for a human. I don't know. That dude was wilding out.
Also, genuinely a good guy.
Oh, great dude. He
which
did
I
so
think
many
is
things.
like
he gives the main character cake like every single time.
yeah,
though.
and he
Like,
gives
what a
us so
guy.
much advice, and like the way that our main character hears it is like this negative thing, but when you take the saying in face value, which is probably what we should do, it's just
Yep.
like him being actually supportive of his friend.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, and like joking around, like we're stuck together. You know what I mean? Like it's not even like mean. It's just like a friend being like, we
Yeah.
get into antics together. That's what we do. Like like our fates are intertwined.
Yes. And
Um,
just a special shout out to Johnny, who looks like Woody from Toy Story. I liked him.
How the
I wish
fuck
we
do
got to
I
talk
look
about
like
that
him?
more.
Yeah. Oh man, that's great. All right, so Johnny, our little sex drive cowboy, whatever. What do you think about best boy or best girl in this show?
All right, so I'm guessing whoever I say is best boy, you guys are automatically just gonna assume it's gonna be Johnny, huh?
It should be. I mean, my best boy last week was
Nope.
Patrick. So I mean,
Fair enough.
The show had 0 options.
yeah.
Well, my best boy is actually gonna be Chad, just because I found the fact that like his actions are fucking absurd. But
He was my
takes
second
himself-
favorite.
He takes himself so seriously. It's like he's taking care of like Kaori, and he's like spraying perfume in like the main character's apartment or whatever, or like air freshener or whatever because he thinks it stinks, and it's just like the way he acts is just fucking hilarious. And now he takes everything seriously. Yeah, he's great. And my best girl is gonna be Hanako because as well. I thought she was the most interesting out of the female characters. She
Wait,
probably
who?
Ryoko.
Ryoko?
Her last name or
Okay.
first name
her
is
last
Hanuki.
name is, her first name is Hanuki.
Yeah,
Okay.
Hanuki Ryoko, so you combined her two names. It's okay.
Yeah, I heard Hanako. I'm like, I don't think that's a character.
No, it's Hanuki
Okay, well,
Ryoko. It's fine. It happens.
I don't speak the Japanese.
Speaking of the Japanese, yeah. You also don't speak the English
The
either.
English,
Vic,
yeah.
really.
Is that a little racist joke here? No, I'm joking.
No, it's
Nope.
your
No, it's
primary
not.
language.
I know.
Your
Well,
first
it didn't
language
take
was
that long for
Chinese.
Pat to get canceled, huh?
See you,
Yeah, I
Pat.
guess
There it is. There it
I was
is.
saying, by
Alright,
the
I'll
end of
just
the
go back to
episode.
playing basketball. Just
Remember
Get
to
back
add
here.
his
What
Twitter.
are we talking about again? The
Your best
girl.
girl.
I'll just make sure I get traded.
The girl
and
from
then-
Kill la Kill, yeah. Anyways, yeah,
forgiven for
she had
everything.
she had like the most. She probably had the most dialogue out of all the female characters, and yeah,
Yeah.
I just thought her interaction with the main character was pretty nice.
Cool. There you go. All right, Miles, what have you got for best boy and best girl?
So I think I'm gonna give best boy to Watashi, not because he's my favorite character, but because us seeing his perspective allowed all the other characters to be as grand as they were.
Mhm.
Like, because everything we see is tinted through his lens, and I very much enjoyed that little sub game of like interpreting things through his view. I just like enjoyed that so much. I thought that was fun.
Because he's us. He's me.
Yeah, he's me,
I.
right? That's
Yeah,
exactly what I am. And to round out my basicness, I'm going to pick Akashi as my best girl. One, I just love her character design. I think it's fantastic. Two, I love her attitude. It's like super, I don't know, kind of deadpan. Like she's like sort of serious, but she also has like a childish side about her. She likes, like children's shows and stuff, which, as like a 29-year-old man who's on an anime podcast, I also like children's shows.
Yo, call the police.
Yeah.
So, that was just I thought a lot of fun. Like I liked their dynamic. I thought they were good. I liked how she hated moths. I thought the animation whenever a moth landed on her was hilarious.
So great.
So yeah, those are my favorite characters. But honestly, I kind of love every character in this show. I just like thought they were really cool, and they're all like very human. They all take like the character development in the show is just so well done.
So good.
And
Including Kaori.
including
Yes,
Kaori's
she probably had
character
the most
development.
character development.
Yeah, she was torn between two loves, and the
Do you
one
want a
who picked
character-
her up and
We have a
moved her-
character who is mute and she talks. That's character development, baby. Let's go.
Totally. Yeah.
She does have
She
better
talks
character
through the power of love.
development than Bakugo, though. As does everything. So Yeah. So those are my favorite characters, but I just want to say, like, I love every character of the show.
There you go. That's fair enough. Yeah, they are all very enjoyable. They all serve their purpose very well, and none of them are like irredeemably bad or poorly written either, which is why I liked the characters in the show a lot too. All right, so my best girl, like I said a little earlier, is Hanuki Ryoko, or Ryoko Hanuki, whatever the proper way of saying that is. I just found her personality the most fun, and I thought she looked the least weird out of all the character designs. Which again, that's not like a roast. That's more just like me personally not liking the art style as much as other people. And then for best boy, I like the wise man Seitaro. I thought he was a fun character. Again, they're all such fun characters, but
He really does the good job of, like, when you're a freshman and there's that senior who's like a 5th-year senior who smokes like a ton of weed, and you
yeah,
just like think he's the smartest dude in the world, and he's just like saying shit, and you're like, wow, that's
that's so
like,
provocative, bro.
yeah, you know what
Like,
I mean? He
yeah,
takes 2 years to read 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Like, it's just fantastic. But he has like his own desires and stuff too, right? Like, he's planning a trip he wants to take, and oh
yeah.
god,
Well,
all the
he's a real
characters
person. They're
just
all real
they're
people.
all real fleshed out people, and we watch ourselves realize that throughout the course of the show. It's just really cool.
Yeah, this show is so cool. Again, I wish I liked the art more. I think that helped me back the most. But yeah, so now we are ready to discuss our final thoughts and give our scores for this show to Tommy Galaxy. So, Miles, would you like to start us off as always?
Yeah, I will.
As we go
So,
in, I gotta delete our 2 out of 10s and our 4 out of 10s from last week from my scorebook. So
imagine
please,
giving that show a 4 out of 10.
it couldn't be me.
Couldn't be me.
Yeah,
Could
it
be
couldn't be
me.
you. Couldn't be either of you
Yeah,
guys.
I
Yeah,
was being nice.
you
um,
were.
that's okay. I'm about to give this show too high of a rating. So as I was watching this show, I was like I think this is probably going to be like an 8 or a 9. Watching it, yada yada yada. Um, and I do this with every show. If you've watched many of our episodes, if I like a show, what I will do during the course of the episode is talk myself into giving it a point higher.
Yeah.
And that is what I have done. So I'm going to give the show a
Nice.
10 out of 10.
Nice.
I love it. And I think the way that I look at these shows and stuff is that, like, the way that I'll like swing something on my initial reaction is, if I think about it more, do I like it more or do I like it less, or does it stay the same? Like, when I really start looking into it and like thinking about, like, okay, this part that I thought might have been boring. When I go back and like look at that again, if I had been paying more attention, is it better now knowing what I know? And
Mm,
I think like pretty much everything in this show ends up serving a purpose, um, ends up telling us something about a character or the main plot or anything. Like, there's no vanity in this show. It is all purposeful. And like an issue that a lot of this sort of like avant-garde shows fall into sometimes, like Monogatari, for example, which I very much enjoyed Monogatari, um, is that a lot of it is like style over substance. Um, where, Monogatari has tons of things that are just like packed with symbolism and stuff, and then it
right.
also has things that aren't at all. That just like look cool or whatever. And like, I think that there's no need for that. And I think that that's not necessarily a downside, but like, with how important every single scene in this is, I just can't say it's anything other than a masterpiece, really. Like, it's just so good. Like, I think if I watched the show like fully through again, I would notice 100 different things about it, knowing now what I know. And I think that is what I personally value in my media. So
Hmm. That's completely fair. I didn't expect you to give the show any less than a 9, so you giving
yeah.
it a 10
Yeah,
is
sounds about right.
completely fair. That's fun. All right, what have you got for us, Pete? If you want to go next.
Sure. Kind of also like Miles. Sometimes I talk myself above or below what I actually thought. And now that we talked about it, there's some things that I sort of missed in the show, or like I had my own thoughts about it, and then now that we're talking about it, it's all like kind of hitting me at once. I'm like, wow, this show is actually like super genius. There's just like another scene that I forgot to mention that was like one of my favorite scenes that I just want to talk about at the
Go
end
for it.
when it's like all said and done. How he talks about how he can't live in this 4.5 tatami room anymore. That he has to do better for himself and all this stuff. So what does he do? He gets a 6 tatami room. I was like, yes, way to upgrade yourself, man, and his own bathroom. So just little
Yeah,
things like
he
that.
made sure it had another bathroom, so if he ever gets stuck in like a logic loop again, that he can at least use the bathroom
Yes.
without peeing in a pan.
Yes,
It's-
that was really good. This show, I think it is a great show to talk about. I felt like if I watched this by myself, I think I probably would have given like a 7 or an 8. There's a lot of things I loved about it. I gut laughed. There was times where like I felt sad because like it related to something in my life, like especially from college. And there was times where like I had like pause, go back, rewind. I took 2 pictures and sent them to the group. I'm like, yo, is this a Monogatari reference? Hey, this is like a Night is Short Walk On Girl reference. It's really funny. And I like things like that in my show. Things that like reference either other things or things to come. Man, the show was just like a bundle of fun. I had a really good time with it. I don't think it's a masterpiece, but I think it's really close. Not really anything bad to say other than at some points I wasn't having the most enjoyment of it. And the only thing, this will be a little weird comparison, but like this and Perfect Blue and the conversation that we had, I loved the conversation we had with Perfect Blue. It became like my favorite anime movie of all time after we talked about it. This show was great. I love talking about it. There's something missing that I can't really like put my finger on it that would not
The
make it a
murder.
10. Yeah, the murder. There wasn't enough murder in this show. So yeah, I'm giving it a 9. I loved it. It was a great show. Yeah, it was a great show. I'm giving it a 9.
Fair enough. All right, Johnny, what have you got?
All right, so I mostly agree with the things that Miles and Peter are saying. Like I feel like this show is really fun to talk about, like how you interpret things differently. Because like going into this, I had a different interpretation, and then I realized like everyone else thought of things slightly differently. I was like, oh wow, like I didn't think of it that way. It's like just really interesting. Like for me, the art style it didn't really hit that hard, but like it also wasn't like that much of an issue for me. It's just like I didn't feel like it was better than like normal anime, if you get what I'm saying.
Mhm.
Yeah. And but so the thing is like I agree with all that stuff, but the problem for this show with for me is that it doesn't have much staying power with me. It's like it's not a show that I'm going to think about in the future. It's like after watching this, I was just like, okay, yeah, that was a pretty good show, yeah. And it's like I don't really like have too much desire to rewatch it or go back to like revisit certain scenes. And for me that's what separates like from like a really good anime. That's something that like I truly enjoy is whether if I can think about it like long after I finish watching it and if I can go back to it. So because of those reasons, I'm giving it an 8. And it's like it's a really good show. It's just I just can't like think of myself as like oh like looking back at this a few years later like thinking yeah like this show was great.
All right, no, that I think that makes sense. Damn, you guys stole my thunder. I thought I was gonna come in and say like the part I enjoyed most about this show, which is still true, I guess, was the after finishing watching it was reading about other people's opinions on it and trying to put things together and piece it together.
Joke's on
I
you, that was all 3 of our favorite parts.
I know that's what annoyed. I know. I thought I was gonna be the only one with that. Um, I just have a funny excerpt from a Mal review to read because it's the other two that are like present or three that are presented at the top of this thing's page are 10s out of 10s, and then there's our favorite contrarian on Mal, who I will not out him, but I have seen this goddamn guy under every goddamn show, and almost always he has the opposite take. You know, he gave Weathering with You a 1. He gave uh Tower of God a 4. Like he has these contrarian views. It's so fucking weird. But then there are some times where he doesn't. Like he gave Demon Slayer a 9. I don't know. I don't understand this man. He sounds like a boomer too with the way he speaks. But let me just read some excerpts from this review that are really really funny. He gave this show a 4.
Reading it right now.
Yeah, the story of this series is identical to Endless Eight from Suzumiya Haruhi Season 2, only this time is apparently meaningful and deep and provokes some thoughts in people. All I see is another teenage drama aired for people who are lost in life, executed in style over substance manner. He uses that a lot, style over substance. He says that every review. Manner, so people who wouldn't like it could just be told that they didn't get it. When it comes to this being like SAO, instead of focusing on an
sorry, what?
overpowered, instead of being focused on an overpowered Gary Stu Isekai Jesus who gets all the bitches and is best at everything he does, Tatami Galaxy focuses on a man who is practicing escapism in a time loop and dwelling on self-pity. The main difference is the comfort, which has changed him from "it's all good now" to pretty much everyone else fucked it up too. Same shit stick, same level of escapism, other end. So I'm not gonna read more, but if you want to read more, please do. You can find it very
This is
quickly.
like super
That's
impressive. Can I go off on this for a second?
yeah. Go ahead.
Everyone understands this show. A great thing about this show is that even if like you maybe missed some details or you know like Johnny interpreted something, the message behind this show is that you need to accept your life, own it, and be happy being who you are. Like, you know, enjoy what you have, stop and smell the roses. It's just fucking Dead Poet Society, right? Like, it's just a very simple message. The
Yeah.
concept that it's like, oh, it's a style over substance, so people could say you did it isn't fucking End of Evangelion, you jackass. It is really simple to figure out. If
Yeah.
you think
Teach
that
these
people didn't
devils.
figure it out, I'm sorry. That's impressive because 6-year-olds could figure it out. Also, the Endless Eight is a dope concept. Fucking fight me.
I fucking hated it.
Damn,
but
son,
whatever.
where'd you find this?
Well, this is just the Endless Eight, but more interesting.
The
but
Endless
whatever.
Eight on paper sounds great. Watching it was awful.
I was in fucking pain.
Dude, it was
it.
awful.
It was so fucking bad. I gave the show a 4 because of that.
What'd you
Damn.
give the movie though?
I gave the movie an 8.
Okay.
The movie
right.
makes it worth it.
Apparently, that's all I've ever heard about that series. So yeah. But anyway, so back to
score it. Sorry.
my scoring of this show. I just thought that review made me laugh because, again, knowing who this person is and seeing that he's the only one that's not a 10 out of 10 on the top reviews that were found like helpful or whatever. I just thought that was funny. And the SAO comparison, which again, his comparison is that it's like SAO, except the only main difference is this, and it's just like I don't see where the comparison.
The main difference that there's any escapism involved. You
Yeah,
see,
I guess that's the similarity,
because
right?
any of the similarity involves. Mind you, SAO's escapism is like from a viewer and not a major theme of the show.
Right.
But no, it's the same thing. What a dumb point. Oh my god.
What an
Yeah.
idiot.
No, this guy, yeah, please.
I mean,
come on the podcast to talk about it if you know who we're talking about.
Yeah,
If you know it's
this
you,
guy's
please
like way
do.
more famous than us because all of his fucking Mal reviews just get like tons of
Tens of people that voted up. Either
yeah,
that
like
or
hundreds
I
of
don't know.
people or whatever. And like I'm sure that these are like perfectly curated like troll pieces, but honestly, you got me on the hook, buddy. I'm mad. So
They have to be a troll, right? Like
Yeah.
if you read through all of his reviews, some of them are just like it has to be a troll. Like there's no way.
He gives
You
bad
never know
shows,
with
good
the internet.
yeah.
You never know.
You never know, but he gives really bad
What are
shows.
you giving it, Pat, by the way?
Yeah, that's so to
Yeah,
get
back
back
to what
to
we're
me.
talking about.
Yeah, back to me. Again, I thought that the show was more fun to talk about than to actually watch. I think it was a very, very good show. Art style didn't sit with me, but that didn't ruin it. It didn't ruin it for me. It wasn't like I just sat there and hated it. It didn't make me want to look at it, if that makes sense, I guess. I wasn't like that fascinated by it. Maybe I was hoping I would because there are other shows that have done like different art styles that I've found very, very cool or good. Like Paprika is a good example where I guess it is still more traditional anime style, but like the visuals are so different that it feels different, and that's what I liked about that art style in Paprika. Um, but overall, again, I it's similar to Bakemonogatari, where I think I'm going to give it. I am giving it an 8, where I think it was good, but it wasn't. And I can understand why it's so critically acclaimed, but it just wasn't the perfect show for me. So that's why I'm not giving it a 9 or a 10, because enjoyment is just as important as critical thought when it comes to scoring a show for me. So yeah, I'm giving it an 8 out of 10, which between the four of us, that averages out to an 8.75. That puts it right up there with one of our top shows. Top two, maybe three shows I think
It
that we've
comes
ever
in
done.
4.
Fourth.
So it's
Wow,
right
fourth now.
behind Violet.
Right behind Violet. Good. That's where it belongs.
I mean, it's definitely like, style over substance. They're both style over substance, according to our favorite Mal reviewer.
God, I want to read what his Violet Evergarden review.
Well, I'm sure he loves it because he has trash taste. So
Yeah. Oh yeah. Good one.
Okay.
There we
buddy.
go. There we go. All right. So yeah, that wraps up our discussion on the Mal review boards. We are going to move on to our next show of or what we nominated, what we voted on for our April Fool's Day episode. That's coming up on April 5th. That'll be our next Watch Club episode, and we decided it's closest to April Fool's Day, so we all nominated comedies. So yeah, let's Miles, you have the tallies for that. It's also our day after Easter episode, so we gotta keep that in mind while we're preparing and watching our
yes,
show. What show is it, and how does it relate to Easter? Please tell us.
yes. So in third place we have The Devil is a Part Timer.
Okay.
In second place we have Yamada-kun and the Seven Witches, I believe.
Damn.
That is
Second
correct.
place. Second place again.
If you just wouldn't switch your show every 7 times, or every other time, you'd probably have won something by now.
Just second place forever. Yeah, it's fine.
And
Feels
then in
bad.
first place, rising 3 days after our finishing of a Science Saru show, is Keep Your Hands Off of Aizoken,
Yay!
which is another show by the same director.
Yes.
So,
Well, there we go. So we went from being a Satoshi Kon podcast
to a Science Saru one.
to a Science Saru podcast.
Yeah, I saw Pat's reaction to realizing that he voted a show by this director so highly, and his immediate regret for that decision. I
like the art
just
style of
like-
Aizoken.
keep your hands off of Aizoken seems like hardly as avant-garde. Maybe it will be.
It's really fun. It's a really
Isn't
fun
a show literally based on art?
Yeah, it's based on people making an anime.
Making an anime, yeah. It's really
Oh,
fun.
that's super fun.
It's
The
super
art
fun.
style seems more fun to me than the one
It's
that we
the
have.
exact. It's pretty similar.
Fuck. Okay.
It's
Well,
great. It's incredible. One of my best animations.
It's more saturated, though, I will say. Like, if you like bright colors and stuff, which you do, because you like Violet and Paprika.
There's
love-
one scene in that show I cannot wait to talk about because it's one of my favorite animated pieces ever made, and it was on accident.
Well.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's great.
All right, but yeah, so now with only the four of us, we're going to have limited voting options next week for ourselves at least. But for all the viewers at home who want to vote and participate, join our Discord. Sick plug, Pat. Thank you, Pat.
I was getting around to it.
Yeah, no. Well, I know. It's just I like to pat myself on the back.
Nice.
Pat.
Peter, where's the wow?
It doesn't deserve it.
Well, you got miles to go to catch up.
Okay.
Is it time to go to sleep? It's time to go to sleep. No Johns. Oh, that's a smash joke right there. There we go, baby. All right, we're fucking on fire right now.
Let's go,
anyways,
boys.
Let's get a Peter out eventually.
Nope.
I'm sorry. I can't.
Nope.
That's all for us. All right, we're done.
Shows.
Nope,
We're
no more.
stopping right there.
We're done. It's over. So the 19th of April is what the shows we're nominating this for. That's just some random ass day in April, so we're not going to do any theme this week. So please, anybody who has nominations, go ahead and say them right now. I'm going to throw Johnny out on the bus because you know what, Johnny, you are never ready, but I expect you to be ready.
It's only sometimes, and I am ready this time. I'm just gonna renominate what I nominated last time. Devil's a part-timer.
Devil's a part-timer. Okay, there you go. Pete, what have you got for us?
So I think it's been a while since we've maybe done a movie. I felt like maybe we should do a movie. And of course, since this is What Do You Say Satoshi Kon, I said, let's do Satoshi Kon. So I'm going to nominate Millennium Actress.
Okay, that's his final film, I believe.
Ooh, maybe? It was 2002, so it's probably close.
No, it's not. Then it was. I don't think it was because it wasn't, or it was Paprika's final film. I don't know.
I believe
I think it was
Paprika
like
was his final
2007,
film.
right?
Paprika was
But
06.
we can
Oh, so it
figure
went
that
down.
out
another
after
time.
Millennium Actress inevitably wins this vote.
Yeah.
Apparently, yes. All right, Miles, what you got?
Yeah, for sure. You mind going first because even though I tally the votes and was super aware that I won, I forgot to take that into account. So I'm browsing.
There you go. Yeah, fair
Yeah.
enough.
I'm not the one that's
Yeah,
not
even
ready
though I
this
have
time.
literally no excuse, as I have all of the time in the world to prepare.
Miles, nominate
Well
Prison
then.
School.
Yeah. Don't forget to upgrade Prison School to another score. Or oh wait, no, it didn't get. It got last or fourth place. I think.
I know. I'm still stop nominating that show. You guys don't want art. I get it.
I voted for it. I voted for it first. I think actually I did.
Smart
I'm
man.
looking
I
back
knew
at
Pat
our.
was the smartest person on this podcast for a reason.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, well, of course, that's why you had me. It's for my
Of
intelligence and my
course.
vote.
Absolutely. And that hair.
Keep patting. Oh yeah. Well, that's gonna be gone soon. Unfortunately,
No.
it'll come back. It'll grow back. Don't
Baby,
worry.
come back.
Anyways, I'm gonna go with one of my shows. God, I need to pick something that I need to renominate, and because I'm sick of getting second place, I would just like to watch something different or something of mine. So let's go with that old ass show that I keep recommending that's gotten a bunch of legacy points by now and then, here and there, something or other, whatever the fuck the title is. It is a classic isekai slash old show that apparently inspired isekais. It's on that Reddit compiled list of top 100 anime ever produced by multiple different lists being compiled together. So, like, there's got to be something good about it, right? There's got to be something good about it, and it can't be that hard to watch. God forbid. We
Yeah, it
watched
was
it.
one spot above Bloodblocade Battlefront, actually.
Was it? Yeah, no, totally. Yeah.
Are you serious?
No,
No,
God,
it's
no.
not.
Okay, I was gonna
No.
say.
No.
No.
No,
That
it
show
was-
was top 100. I was gonna go off myself.
Yeah, no, that's it's like 42nd or something. It was up there though. It was and apparently it deserves to be. So we're gonna find out. Hopefully sometime someday I'll win again. It's been a while since Tadakun. And yeah. So here we
Our
are.
most popular episode.
Yeah, apparently, maybe we should listen to me more. Like we said, the smartest guy in the podcast, obviously.
Yes. For
But
sure.
yeah, I think if we have all of our nominations except for Miles, what have you
Yes.
got?
So I am going to help you out, my friend, and I'm going to nominate Yuri on Ice, thereby doubling the chances that
A show I
a
nominated
show
wins.
that you want to watch wins.
And I can
Um,
vote for this one. There we
You
go.
can, yes.
Nice.
And I would love to rewatch Yuri on Ice because the show is very, very good.
It is very
So there we are.
So that's our 4. All right. So I think that wraps us up for this week. So yeah, next meeting will be on the 5th, and we'll be watching Keep Your Hands Off 5th of April, and we'll be watching Keep Your Hands Off Isokin. So that should be a good time. Pete, why don't you take it away?
All right. Well, if you made it this far, thank you. We got content coming up the yazoo for you. Next week we got part 1 of the seasonal review because I'm an idiot and I scheduled this and then I realized by the time we were doing the review, not all the shows are going to be done. So I'm going to have to do 2 episodes for that. Also on Tuesday, special episode, or Wednesday, we'll see. Me and Pat are reviewing the Violet Evergarden movie, boy. I cannot
Let's
wait.
go! I can't wait, baby.
My first movie.
I can't wait either.
My first movie in
fuck you,
theaters
Miles.
in over a.
I
In
can't even watch it, so fuck both of you.
yeah, like, this is the first movie I'll see in theaters in like 14 months, I think.
Same here.
So
Since I went and saw the last Violet Evergarden movie. Like, that's
Yeah.
crazy. That was the last movie I saw before fucking theater shut down, and now here we are. I can't wait. It's the
crazy.
night of the eve of my birthday. We'll be recording. Who knows? Depending on how late we are, we might get into my birthday as
never
well
know.
on the 31st. Who knows? Should be a good time.
Yeah, if you want to help celebrate Pat's birthday, you can Venmo him at Peter. That's me. Just Venmo me money. I'll make sure Pat gets it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, totally.
I'll for sure relay it. Other than that, if you are interested in joining our Discord, you want to talk anime, we're talking March Madness right now. You want to talk about anime titties, who knows? Join our Discord. It's a whole bunch of fun. We also have like socials. It's all gonna be in the link tree in the description below. Come on, join or follow us on Twitter, whatever. If you're listening to us on non-YouTube, we have visual content on YouTube. So check us out at What Do You Say Annie? Or I guess it's What Do You Say Anime on YouTube. So check us out. Other than that, we will see you in a week for part 1 of our seasonal review. Thanks, guys.